Welcome into Buckets Action Network's WNBA betting podcast. I'm Danielle Avari, filling in for the lovely and talented Maria Marino, alongside with my old buddy here, Dana Matayo. Dana, how are you doing?
It's so good to get the dream team back together. Man, it's been a while since I've seen you, but I've seen you've been killing it on the write-ups for the action. Always love tailing your bets, so glad to be talking some hoop with you.
I know, so long that you're literally in a different state now, and yet we are
Yeah,
somehow both melting. Yes,
yeah. I don't have a southern accent yet, but we'll get there.
we'll get there. We'll get there. I know one of your bets is coming out of that state. We'll get to that later. This is our best bets episode for Friday, September 6th. 4-game slate on Ion. How good are the games on Ion, Dana?
Whew. I mean, amazing. It's it's not not putting up fever numbers, but they're all incredible. Love that Ion makes it easy. And then afterwards, my father-in-law is happy because we get some blue bloods going.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody wins. So tell me your best bets for Friday. What do you got?
Oof. Taking a couple dogs on the money line.
Okay.
Starting with the Dallas Wings. Hate saying it, but I feel like it's a desperation spot, especially after losing a game at home to the Mystics. We'll talk more about that later. Next, taking Fever on the money line against the Lynx. And lastly, I'm taking Chicago Sky -5.5.
The Sky. The Sky have lost what, 7, 8 games at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
7 in a row?
This has got to be the breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But like you said, getting some firepower back. We'll get into that a little bit more. Is there any specific best bet that you particularly like, you feel really good about? Maybe that Dallas one?
I'm feeling them all. My best bet is whatever Danielle says to bet live in the Connecticut Las Vegas game, because I'm not touching it pregame.
That is the way to bet it. That is the way to bet
Yeah.
it for sure. Dana knows my proclivity for loving live bets and looking for those opportunities. Maybe we can find some here as we go into these game previews. The Lynx are going to be at the Fever, as you mentioned. That's the 7:30 p.m. Eastern tip. They have the exact same record since the Olympic break. Both are 7-1 straight up, 6-2 against the spread. And the Lynx's last game, they beat Chicago only by 5. That was on Sunday. They have 4 full days of rest ahead of this Friday game. And then the Fever had a closeout win over LA on Wednesday. I was just at the Sparks game myself last Sunday against the Dream. The Sparks are on a big time struggle bus, but they still at least able to get it done. The Fever are. So now they're back at home where they're 10-1 since June 1st. Really, really interesting to see this one. Where do you put your attention, and why do you think it's going to be the Fever here?
I thought they should have won in Minnesota. The game before Maya Moore's jersey retirement. It was a 2-point game before the Lynx went crazy. I mean, Lynx had like a stretch of 5 or 6 games where they shot above 50%, which hasn't been done in like 5 years in the WNBA for 5 straight games. So to me, and shout out our action colleague Justin Perry, who does a lot with baseball, runs Shot Quality Bets. They had Fever winning that game. So I think it was just a little bit of unluck. And then, kind of like you said at the beginning, like Fever at home right now are just terrifying for other teams. The crowd is insane. The offense looks jacked up. The defense is actually extremely solid. I think Lexi Hull in the starting lineup has been fantastic for the Fever. Just gives them a little bit of juice. And, I mean, she's taken the toughest guard on every opposing team. So Lynx are great. Cheryl's great. I just think it's the right spot for the Fever. And, I mean, who doesn't love betting on Caitlin Clark? Shout out to her getting that triple-double for me the other day, 14-1. I love that.
That's right. And also an August Player of the Month alongside Nafisa Collier. So we get a little matchup of these August Players of the Month here. And how incredible has it been to see Caitlin Clark actually lift this Fever team to a playoff spot after missing it for so many years? It's actually cool to see a rookie come in. And I mean, Aaliyah Boston did this for them last year. They just needed a little bit more pieces, I think. But seeing the impact that Caitlin Clark has had and able to actually get the Fever into the playoffs finally has been so incredible to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the last time she's had a bad game. I mean, she's played herself in the first team All WNBA, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, she'll get MVP votes. I mean, if Asia Wilson wasn't having the greatest season of all time, who knows? But still, super impressed. You're right. It's incredible.
And a big reason why we're seeing a total of 169.5, especially against a pretty solid if not one of the best defenses in the league with the Lynx here. I'm seeing the line at 2.5, even up to 3 in some spots here, and that's in favor of the Lynx. But you're saying Fever going to get it done here. Any opinion
Yeah.
on the total?
I mean, I would love it. There's a stat. I think it's 12-2 to the over when Fever are favored. I haven't checked it when they're dogs, but obviously, I mean, trends kind of are all different after the break. But Fever putting up points at home. They did only score 84 against the Sun, but the Sun do have a kind of like a bully ball type of defense. So, I mean, if the Lynx are hidden, that's scary. But I do see this. If I was to bet the total, I'd probably go under. Could see it being somewhat close, but I think Fever just pull it out. And yeah, it's more fun to take a dog on the money line at home.
Absolutely. I agree with you on the total there. If anything, leaning a little bit to the under. I think that Lynx defense makes things difficult. And I could see this being a little bit more of a gritty game, especially given this season series has been split 1-1.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, that first matchup, the Fever won, but we didn't have Nafisa Collier then. Second matchup kind of showed them who's boss, especially in honor of that Maya Moore night. So maybe here, the Fever finally put that win back in their column. Let's look at the Aces of the Sun. Aces -1.5. This is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern start as well. Losing 9 straight against the spread. We have the Aces in one corner. They have now won and covered 3 in a row. So they're getting back on track here. Becky Hammond said that she's not very worried about playoff seeding right now. She's just worried about getting them all healthy and back to a good spot. Jackie Young was out for a game or two, being cautious there. Kelsey Plum, same thing with an ankle, but it seems like finally getting back on track and still very much a superstar-studded team. As for Connecticut, 4-5 ATS since the break, so very hit or miss. They lost to Seattle, 71-64 Tuesday at home. They just sometimes have these scoring droughts that are really frustrating. They can't seem to get things going. What do you see for this game, and why are you staying off of it, I guess, more importantly?
I think it's one, especially I forget her last name, Callie, who covers the Aces, great beat writer. Becky did say that she wants to get Asia a rest at some point, and we've been seeing the Aces just having these late game scratches of Kelsey, of Jackie. I do think it's important that Asia gets a rest at some point down the stretch because she's been carrying probably the biggest load of anybody in the WNBA. That being said, what they're getting out of Tip Hayes lately has been phenomenal. She's been so good in this starting lineup, filling in for Jackie once and then Kelsey. So I do trust that offense a little more than I do the Sun defense, but the Sun are at home and a dog, and it's just not. I can see it going either way. I can see the Aces kind of cruising, or the Aces that we've known for, right out of the break, coming out slow, and Connecticut just wins an ugly game. So I rather just sit back, maybe take something live.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the bookmakers seem to agree with you. I think if you can find a bigger advantage on either side, it might be worth grabbing some points with.
Yeah.
But traditionally, I mean, we've seen the Aces be able to handle this Connecticut team over the years to the point where Connecticut has always been the bridesmaids. So maybe they can get that kind of switched off for themselves. Wings at Dream. I know you have a bet on this as well. The Dream at -2.5. I'm seeing -2 in a lot of spots now too. So that line just shifting ever so slightly. Also a 7:30 p.m. Eastern start. Dallas 3-5. Okay, Dallas, one of the worst ATS teams in the league, but 3-5 since the break after dropping their last two. They lost to Washington on Tuesday, 90-86. Maybe a bounce back spot for them. Meanwhile, Atlanta 5-3-1 ATS since the break, kind of performing a little above expectations. Lost to Phoenix on Tuesday, even though Ryan Howard scored 31 points, still did not get it done. Again, I saw the Dream play the Sparks in person the other day, thought, wow, Ryan Howard's so talented, and yet this Atlanta team still can't put it all together in any given game, right? So where are you at with this one?
I also want to say I feel like any Wings total under 170, I have to bet the over. So I mean, it's the worst defense in the history of basketball. And somehow they've knocked off the Aces, they knocked off the Lynx, and then they lose to the Mystics at home. So I mean, they're an enigma. They're so hard to figure out. But I do think this is a spot where they get it done. LT, in my opinion, is coaching for her job. That's just me.
Sure.
They're not out of the playoff race yet. It's an important game, especially because Atlanta is ahead of them for that final eighth spot. I mean, like, Atlanta can have those moments where they go crazy, but they also scored 25 points in the first half at Phoenix, who's not a great defensive team by any
Right.
means. They trend towards the bottom as well. So it's completely completely looking at the spot for me, just coming off that terrible loss at home, desperation time, coming towards the end of the season. You have everybody healthy. To me, they're the more talented team. Not afraid of Atlanta being at home for any reason. We've seen what solid teams have done there. New York has just had the time of their life there. So yeah, I'm taking the Wings on the money line, and I'm adding the over just on principle.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, the Dream are the reason that total is on the lower side.
Yep.
And to your point about them being at home, this is one of the least attended as far as the WNBA teams go, as far as attendance. So it's not shocking to me that teams can come in there and kind of make it their own. Wings being in a desperate spot, I never think desperation is a cute look here, but I'm rooting for you on this one. Like you said, playoff picture to consider here, especially for the Dream. Sky and Dream, same record, but Sky actually holds that tiebreaker going 2-1 in that head-to-head. So the Dream really on the line here. I don't trust them to consistently score despite, I mean, again, you have a Ryan Howard, 31 points. If you want to look at props, maybe, but again, it's pretty much going to operate through her. So yeah, I'm with you on the over there. And then also Wings money line. Let's get it done. Sparks at Sky. This has got the Sky as a 5.5 point home favorite. I know you like the Sky in this one. This is a 9:30 p.m. Eastern start. Why do you like the Sky?
Oof. It's 9:30 p.m. Eastern start. Jeez, it's a late game. It's at
That's what we
Chicago,
got
right?
here.
That's correct.
It
Am I
is.
going
It's at
crazy?
Chicago. You're correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I mean, I do my tiers every week, and they're mostly satirical. But like the fact that the Sky have been so bad in the absence of Kennedy Carter just speaks volumes to me. I
Mhm.
mean, I think as far as scoring guards go, might be the best in the league. Heard
Mhm.
her talk at a press conference today. She seems extremely healthy, very confident, very back, saying she wants to make a run, wants to go for the playoffs. I like that motivation spot. And Sky been drawing some good crowds this year. Uh, Sparks, it's hit or miss. They could show up like they did against Atlanta, or they could show up like they did against the New York Liberty and can't seem to miss a shot. But
Mhm.
I like the Sky to finally get a win here and get a convincing win. Get it done by double digits. I feel like they're going to come out and start really strong. So I wouldn't mind looking at a uh, maybe a first quarter. I mean, the Sparks have been good in first halves lately, with the exception of that
Mhm.
Atlanta game. But still, I do feel good about them getting this done by at least 6.
How do you feel about an under in this spot?
Ooh, uh,
Just because,
I
as
mean,
you said, like the Sparks, so Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde sometimes, and
yeah,
so not really sure what we're going to get from
yeah,
them offensively.
yeah. Uh, I do, I do feel like if I had to bet the total, I'd probably go under.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I think whatever Kennedy Carter's points prop opens up at, just bet that over and have a good time. Uh,
Mm,
she's gonna get it done. I feel like that's I'm never gonna say a lock, but that's close to it. But yeah, I mean, it's really dependent on the Sparks here, and they could come out and possibly cover. I mean, like Kia Nurse hadn't hit double digits in 5 games, and out of nowhere, she had 10 points in the first half last night against the Fever. So um, yeah, it would
where's
be
Kia
under for
sitting
me.
on your tiers right now, by the way?
I think good effort.
Good effort. I was going to say. I was
Yeah.
like, did that bump her up at all? And speaking of
Uh,
your tiers, by the way, that also speaks to our wings over because you literally have a category called Arike. So not just speaking about
uh,
the wings having just absolutely poor defense, but literally just such high volume shooting as well. The Sky do not have that problem here. I'm actually surprised that they're favored by 5.5, but the Sky at home is a different story than the Dream at home for sure. I think the Sky support is different. I think you're right about Kennedy Carter. She's going to come back, and she knows that the playoffs are on the line for them here. Chicago has lost, like you said, 7 in a row straight up. Lost to Vegas 90-71 just on Tuesday. But Kennedy Carter, I'm glad you saw her in the interview as well. I thought she looked healthy. I think she's ready to go. Um, yeah, I think I'm with you on this one as well. I think it's tough to bet anything besides an over on any Kennedy props. And I think that it might
Yeah,
even be better to look at something like a points and an assist, something like a combo, because you might get a better price on it. So something to
yeah,
look at for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do want to shout out Lindsey Allen and Michaela on your
Yeah.
way. Go
Yeah.
Bruins. Um,
Yeah. UCLA girl.
they've been phenomenal. In the absence, they just don't have enough, especially when like
Mhm.
almost a third of their point production this year has been from Kennedy. And it's crazy that she might be the most impactful player to a team outside of maybe Asia Wilson and Caitlin. Like her
Yeah.
absence is just so noticeable. And I mean, the Sky have covered some games and done some nice stuff late. Uh, but I also think like you're not worried about the reduction in effort from like Angel Reese. You're going to get that every game. Camilla is getting better every game. She's playing great. So, I mean, I think the line is properly set for me. I love this guy here.
Yeah, and to your point, as far as an impactful player, they lost Kalia Copper in the offseason, so maybe it's not surprising to see that somebody had to step in and fill that role because
True.
before Kalia Copper was one of the most impactful players for a single team. So somebody had to step up. Kennedy definitely has. Excited to see her back in action. And Dano, hit us with your best bets again real quick. Just run them back for us so we can jump on those with you.
Yeah, before I forget, over in the Wings dream, have to, and then we're taking
Have
the
to.
dream or taking the Wings on the money line, taking the Fever on the money line, Caitlin on Friday night at home, and then finally Sky -5.5.
Sky -5.5. Going to end with that one. Thank you so much, Dano. Great to be back with you. Great to be on the
Yes,
Buckets podcast here. Thank you for listening. Maria will be back on Tuesday with more best bets. If you like what you hear, please rate and review the podcast. Download our award-winning Action app if you haven't yet. And Dano, let's get buckets.